When she brought it up, we were in the middle of folding laundry. That's what makes it so insane to remember. It wasn't some candlelit dinner or deep conversation about feelings. I was untangling one of her stupid lacy bras from the dryer door when she said it, all casual, like asking if we were out of toothpaste. I've been thinking, she started, maybe we should try a night off. Like freedom night. At first I didn't say anything. I just blinked at her because I honestly didn't know what the hell she was talking about. She noticed the look, smirked slightly, and tossed a balled-up pair of socks into the basket like it was nothing. She had this weird calm about her, like she'd practiced it. Like she was waiting for me to ask the question she already had answers rehearsed for. What does that even mean? I said finally. A night off from what? From us. She didn't flinch. Just once. Like a reset button. My hands stopped moving mid-fold. I looked at her, really looked. She was wearing her old university sweatshirt, the one with the frayed collar. No makeup. Hair in a messy bun. And yet she looked ready. Not like someone suggesting an idea on a whim. More like someone giving notice. Like a bomb ticking inside her chest had finally hit zero. I asked, why would we need a reset? What's going on with you? She shrugged, looked down at the laundry, and said, we've been stagnant. Routine kills passion. That was the first crack. Not the words. The way she said it. Like she was reading from a script someone else had written. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just stared at her until she shifted her weight and pretended not to notice. For 2 days after that, I said nothing. I watched. I kept everything exactly the same dinner times, the same morning coffee, the same end-of-day conversations. But I started paying attention to her. She was no longer with me. She had already stepped out the door, emotionally. She was just waiting for a convenient excuse to follow through. And then it happened. Friday. She got dressed way too carefully for a so-called casual dinner with a few of the girls. Perfume she hadn't used in over a year. Heels. A fresh blowout. She left like someone trying not to look back. And I let her go. Because I wasn't about to argue. I was going to watch. What she didn't know is that on Thursday I'd swapped the dash cam from my car into hers. She thought it was broken. I'd told her that myself. But it wasn't. And it had just enough juice to record sound and front view. I didn't even have to wait long. By 10:48 p.m. I had the footage on my laptop. She wasn't with friends. She was with a man. A tall one, bald, built like a bouncer. He picked her up in front of that sushi place downtown, not even pretending to be subtle. She walked straight up to him and hugged him like she belonged there, like she'd done it before. Laughed at something he whispered. Slid into the passenger seat with a confidence I hadn't seen in her in years. Not with me, at least. I watched the clip 3 times. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I needed to be sure I didn't miss any detail. Her face. Her energy. Her betrayal. All of it was right there, raw, casual, cold. But here's where the story really starts. Because I didn't blow up. I didn't call her. I didn't even tell her I knew. Instead, I planned something. Something quiet. Precise. I wasn't going to scream at her or beg or cry. That's what people expect. I wasn't going to fall apart in front of someone who had clearly been lying to me for God knows how long. She wanted a free night? I was going to give her something better. The last one. One she'd never forget. And it would begin the next morning. With breakfast. The next morning I made her breakfast. Not just eggs and toast, I went all out. Belgian waffles, fresh strawberries, that fancy maple syrup we save for guests. I brewed her coffee just how she likes it, with almond milk and that ridiculous cinnamon oat creamer she hoards. She came downstairs in one of my old shirts like everything was normal, like she hadn't been out with another man less than 10 hours ago. And I smiled. She kissed my cheek, told me I was sweet, and sat down like she deserved this. Like she hadn't just spit on our vows behind my back. I watched her eat. I memorized every move. The way she kept glancing at her phone between bites, smiling at whatever she was reading. Probably a message from him. Maybe even a picture. I wondered if she thought of me at all last night while she was out playing this little double-life fantasy. Halfway through breakfast she said, "You're being so nice today. What's the occasion?" I just shrugged. Just appreciating what I have. She smiled again. That same rehearsed, smug little curve of her mouth. The one she wore when she thought she was in control. That day I did everything right. Helped with the dishes. Took her car for a wash. Even left her a note in her gym bag, something dumb and sweet, the kind of note a faithful husband writes when he's too blind to see what's happening. I wanted her to believe I was still in the dark. But behind the curtain I was lining up every domino. That evening I told her I'd be out late at the office, which was a lie. There was no office. I had taken the next day off and she didn't know it yet. I wanted her to feel relaxed, unbothered, safe to keep lying. And she did. She played along perfectly. Even gave me a long kiss goodbye. By midnight I had everything I needed. The dashcam footage was backed up. I had copies of her texts from a synced iCloud I had secretly accessed months ago when I first got suspicious. Yes, months. There had been signs before, small ones, that I hadn't wanted to believe. But now I did. Fully. And painfully. The text that hit the hardest was from her to him. Can't wait to finally sleep through the night without pretending. He still buys it. I think I'll ask for a weekend away soon. Sleep through the night? Pretending. I read that sentence over and over until it burned. Pretending. She had been acting through our life together like it was a role. She kissed me and thought of someone else. She thanked me for the smallest kindnesses while planning the next time she'd disappear. I didn't even recognize the person writing those messages. I didn't want to. And yet I kept reading. Not out of curiosity anymore, but for evidence. I needed to see how deep the rot went. And it was bad. There were messages that made it clear this wasn't new. They had history. They had habits. Inside jokes, nicknames, a whole other version of her life she never even hinted at around me. She called me the roommate. Said she was counting down the days. I still didn't confront her. Not yet. Because what I had planned wouldn't work if I let my anger blow the lid off early. I needed her to think everything was still perfectly in her control. And then, the very next morning, like she was following some script, she brought up the weekend away. Casually. Over coffee. I was thinking of maybe going up to the lake house next weekend, she said. Alone. Just to reset. I stared into my mug like I was considering it. Sounds like a good idea, I told her. You deserve it. And just like that she smiled again. Like a snake satisfied with its own skin. She didn't know it yet, but that was the last lie she would ever tell me without consequence. Because if she wanted space, I was going to give her all the space she needed and more. The days leading up to her little getaway were the most surreal of my life. She floated through the house like a woman reborn. She sang while she cooked, hummed while she did her hair, even danced a little in the hallway when she thought I wasn't looking. It wasn't joy, it was the arrogance of someone who believed she had successfully manipulated every piece on the board. The twisted part? She enjoyed it. The secrecy. The lies. She thrived in it like a spider in its web. But I wasn't trapped anymore. I was outside the web now, watching it unravel thread by thread, waiting for just the right moment to burn the whole thing down. 2 days before she was set to leave for the lake house, I told her I'd be heading out of town myself that weekend. A conference. Something about networking. I could see the flicker of delight in her eyes, that almost imperceptible lift in her shoulders, the breath she didn't realize she was holding until it released. The freedom she craved was right there, scheduled, unchallenged, and clean. But here's what she didn't know, the lake house wasn't hers to vanish into. It was ours. In my name. And equipped conveniently with an old home security system she'd forgotten about, one I had updated the moment she started planning this little solo retreat. Hidden cameras. Motion alerts. Audio. Full access from my phone. I didn't plan to spy. I planned to record. That Friday I helped her pack. She joked about bringing too many shoes, asked me if I'd miss her, I told her I'd survive, and promised to call if she had reception, which we both knew was a lie. She even hugged me extra long at the door like a farewell to her performance. Her body language screamed satisfaction, like she'd successfully buried the evidence of her betrayal under a weekend of fresh pine-scented alibis. She drove off at 3:12 p.m. By 3:19 p.m. I had opened the live feed from the lake house on my laptop. And by 6:42 p.m. the first motion alert triggered. She wasn't alone. I watched from a coffee shop, headphones in, eyes burning through the screen as she welcomed him into our space like it was some secret garden she owned. Same man from before. Now in her home. My home. Dropping a duffel bag, kissing her neck, familiar with everything. This wasn't his first time here. He knew where the glasses were. He knew where the blankets were stored. He knew her. And she knew I'd never find out. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry that part had passed. Not because I was shocked that had died days ago. I didn't sleep because I was working. I built a folder. I called it closure. Inside were videos, text screenshots, GPS history, receipts, and time logs. Dates. Places. Faces. Her own words. Her laughter. Her lies. And the final piece? A letter. I wrote it between midnight and dawn. Not an angry rant. Not a plea. Just the truth. Every word exact. Every sentence weighted like a stone in her shoe. I wanted her to feel every inch of what she had done. I wanted her to sit in the silence that followed the wreckage with only her echoing choices to keep her company. The next day, I delivered the letter and the folder, not to her. To her parents. Sunday morning, I drove across town and hand-delivered it. They opened the door, surprised but warm, still believing we were the perfect couple from holiday cards and Instagram posts. I didn't say much. Just handed them the envelope and said, she'll understand. Then I left. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I let her weekend finish uninterrupted. Let her believe the lie had worked, right up until the moment it collapsed under its own weight. Because when she came home Sunday evening, humming to herself with that same smug glow she'd worn all week, she found the front door unlocked. And everything inside gone. She stood in the doorway for a full minute before stepping inside. Her suitcase still in the trunk, keys dangling uselessly from her hand, her smile twitching at the edges as she scanned the living room. The couch was gone. The pictures were gone. The TV, the bookshelf, even the rug she picked out last spring after dragging me through 5 different stores, all gone. The house didn't look ransacked. It looked cleared. Like someone had moved out. Like someone had taken their life back and left nothing behind for her to hold on to. She called my name. Twice. Her voice had this weird lilt to it, forced lightness, panic hiding under a laugh. The kind of tone people use when they're trying to convince themselves they're still in control of the scene. I didn't answer. She walked further in slowly now. I had left the dining table, just one chair pulled out, the envelope in the center. Her name on the front. That was all. She didn't open it right away. She walked around first, maybe thinking it was some kind of sick joke or that I'd jump out and yell, "Gotcha," like this was all a test she could still pass. But the truth sat in every empty shelf, every echo in the walls. I wasn't there. I was never coming back. She sat down eventually. She stared at the envelope for a long time before touching it. And when she finally opened it, the camera caught every second. Her eyes stopped moving after the first paragraph. Her expression dropped like a curtain pulled mid-scene. All that performance, all that smugness, gone in an instant. What replaced it wasn't sadness, and it sure as hell wasn't guilt. It was fear. Because I hadn't just laid out what I knew, I had laid out what I'd done. She now understood that the last 72 hours of her fake getaway had been recorded, cataloged, and documented in high definition. I had sent the footage to a cloud server with a timed access link. And I made it very clear she had no say in what happened next. Because I wasn't the one who needed to decide anymore. Her parents were. See, I knew exactly what mattered to her. Not love. Not truth. Not even me. It was reputation. She was addicted to the version of herself she built for the world, the doting wife, the professional trainer, the loyal daughter. I didn't need to expose her online. I just had to cut the brakes on the image she cared about most. And so I did. By the time I left her parents' house that Sunday morning, I had handed off everything she'd spent years trying to hide. Not out of revenge, out of principle. Let the people who raised her see what she'd become. Let the mask fall, once and for all, in front of someone who could actually look her in the eye and say, "You chose this." Back in the house, she was pacing now. She picked up her phone, probably to call me, but stopped herself. Then she grabbed the envelope again, flipping through the papers, pausing at the printed screenshots. Her hand actually trembled. She knew what was next, and it terrified her. That's when she noticed the ring box. I'd left it on the kitchen counter, alone, lid open. Inside? The wedding band she had placed on my finger 5 years ago. Below it? A typed note, just one sentence. "This was the last thing of yours I still wore." No signature. She called me 6 times that night. Left 3 voicemails. The first was sharp, angry, full of bluster and disbelief. The second was quieter. Defensive. She was trying to control the narrative, fumbling to find a version of the truth that would make her the victim. By the 3rd voicemail, her voice cracked. But I didn't listen to the 4th. Because I didn't need to hear her react. I'd already seen her choose. She didn't just cheat. She invested in it. She didn't trip into someone else's arms, she ran, skipped, and built a vacation around it. And I wasn't going to spend another second of my life pretending otherwise. I stayed away on purpose. I didn't block her number. That would have been too clean. I wanted her to know I was out there, watching the collapse, hearing every message, seeing every missed call, and ignoring all of it. Silence is louder than shouting when someone is used to pulling strings. And she was unraveling without anyone left to manipulate. By Monday morning, she'd already gone into damage control mode. I know because I still had access to her cloud account, and I watched the texts start rolling in like a flood she couldn't patch. First, to her parents. "Please don't believe everything he said. He's not well right now." Then to her best friend. "He's trying to make me look like a monster. You know that's not me." And then the one that really hit. She texted him. Not to confess. Not to break it off. But to ask. "Do you think he'll actually go through with it?" That told me everything. She wasn't sorry. She was scared. Scared of consequences, not guilt. Scared of losing the illusion, not losing me. I'd underestimated just how far she was willing to go to protect her image. She went to her boss that afternoon and tried to preemptively get ahead of the rumors by spinning a story about me being mentally unstable. I watched her schedule a meeting with HR and draft a perfectly polished email about marital stress and potential misinformation being circulated. This wasn't a woman trying to apologize. This was a woman setting up her legal alibi. So I set up mine. I'd already filed for divorce that morning using a lawyer I'd hired months ago when the doubts first turned into patterns. The paperwork was ready to drop, and by the end of that week, she'd be served. But I wasn't finished. Because there was one last piece of the story she hadn't seen coming. I had a dinner planned. With her sister. Before you get the wrong idea, it wasn't romantic. It wasn't revenge. It was truth. Her sister, Clara, had been suspicious for months. She'd hinted at it during holidays, once even asked me directly if Madison was keeping secrets. But I had defended my wife like an idiot. Told Clara she was just stressed, that we were fine. Now Clara knew better. Because I'd sent her the closure file too. We met at a quiet Thai place on the edge of town. She showed up before me, sitting at a booth by the window, arms folded tight like she was bracing herself for a storm. When I slid into the seat across from her, she didn't say hello. She just asked, how long? I told her everything. From the dashcam to the lake house. The texts. The call logs. The lies. The performances. Her mouth stayed tight, but her eyes said it all. She wasn't shocked, not really. Just heartbroken. She said Madison had always been like this, charming on the outside, empty on the inside. A chameleon. She told me she used to think it was just a defense mechanism, something Madison would grow out of. But now she saw it for what it really was, a choice. We talked for over 2 hours. By the end of it, Clara took my hand across the table and said something I didn't expect. She's going to come after you when the public image cracks. Not because she wants you. Because she'll need someone to blame. I nodded. I already knew that part. But what she said next made me freeze. She didn't just cheat on you, you know? He wasn't the only one. Clara pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward me. A message thread. Another name. Another man. Another lie. She'd known. For months. She hadn't told me because she thought it wasn't her place, but now? She wanted me to have the full picture. And the picture was so much uglier than I imagined. It wasn't one affair. It was many. My wife wasn't lost. She was built for this. And now all the masks were coming off. I left that dinner with Clara feeling like I just walked out of a theater where the final twist changes everything you thought you knew. It wasn't grief anymore. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity, brutal, dry-eyed, bitter clarity. This hadn't been one betrayal. It had been a pattern, a lifestyle. My marriage hadn't cracked. It had never existed the way I thought it had. And once I saw that, really saw it, something inside me shifted. I wasn't walking wounded anymore. I was walking away. The next morning, Madison finally broke silence, not by calling, but by showing up. She hadn't done that since the lake house. She came without warning, without a bag, just keys in hand and that same mask she wore when she needed something. I watched her pull into the driveway from the upstairs window of the apartment I was temporarily renting. She didn't know I was home. She thought I'd still be gone, probably believed she could stroll in and leave a teary letter or snoop around and find out just how much I knew. But I didn't let her get that far. I opened the door before she reached it. She jumped slightly, caught off guard. For the first time, I saw her flinch. Oh, she said. You're here. I live here, I said flatly. She tried to smile. I thought maybe we could talk. I leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed. About what? The sushi guy? The yoga guy? Or the one Clara told me about last night? That wiped the fake calm clean off her face. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Clara's lying. I laughed once. Quiet and humorless. So are you. She stepped forward like she was going to try something, the look, the voice, the touch on the arm. But I didn't move. I didn't make it easy. And without that opening, she started unraveling. I know I messed up, she said, voice tight. But you blindsiding my family like that? That was low. I raised an eyebrow. You mean exposing the truth? Lower than using our house like a cheap motel? Lower than calling me the roommate while laying in our bed? She went quiet again. And then she got angry. Because that's what she does when she's cornered and can't manipulate her way out, she attacks. You're not some saint, she snapped. You just stood there for months, cold, distant. You weren't present. You buried yourself in work and expected me to just, what? Sit in the corner and wait for you to notice me. You wanted me to notice you? I stepped out into the porch, nose inches from hers. Then maybe you should have tried being someone worth noticing. Her eyes widened like I'd hit her, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't swear. I didn't even blink. Because everything I said was true and she knew it. She started crying then. Or tried to. But the tears didn't fall, they hovered. Crocodile tears. Strategic sobs. She reached for me like she could still play the wife card, still drag me back into the fog. I want to fix this, she whispered. I shook my head. No. You want to control this. That's what you're really scared of, not losing me. Losing the story you told yourself. That you could always land on your feet. I handed her the folder I'd prepared, the legal one. The one with the final set of divorce papers, the cease and desist regarding any communication with my employer, and the updated list of documented infidelities. All of it neat. Final. Signed. Give this to your lawyer, I said. And tell him not to waste my time. She looked at the folder like it was radioactive. And then, as if realizing she had nothing left to bargain with, she asked the only question that still mattered to her. Are you going to tell everyone? I stared at her for a long moment. And then I said something I hadn't even planned to say, something that felt like it came from someplace deeper than logic. I don't need to destroy you. You'll do that all by yourself. And I shut the door. No slamming. No yelling. Just finality. The strange thing about walking away from someone like her is the silence that follows. Not the peaceful kind. Not yet. It's the kind of silence that crawls, watches you, waits for you to fall back into old patterns. It's like detoxing from poison you didn't know was in your blood. For days, I didn't hear from her. But I saw the ripple effects. Clara texted me first. Her parents had gone quiet on Madison after reading everything. Her father, a quiet, proud man who'd always treated me like family, hadn't even replied to her calls. Her mother sent a one-line text, "You need help." Apparently, Madison had spun a wild story about being emotionally manipulated by me, tried to paint herself as a woman driven to desperation. But her family had seen the receipts. Literally. They saw the footage. The texts. The logins. The dates. Her attempts to cry her way out of it just bounced off the wall of facts. She couldn't rewrite it anymore. So she tried the next obvious move. She went public. On day 5 post-confrontation, she posted a photo of herself alone at the beach. A long caption about healing, taking accountability, and choosing to move forward with love. It was crafted like a PR memo, carefully worded, vague, not naming me, not admitting anything specific. But I knew what it was. Damage control. And the comments? Predictably split. Half the people praising her courage and growth. The other half asking questions. Questions she didn't want to answer. About me. About her timeline. About who took the photo if she was alone. I watched in real time as her grip slipped. Then came the unexpected part. People started reaching out to me. Friends. Colleagues. Even 2 of her old clients, people I barely knew, messaged me privately. I saw what she posted. If you ever need someone to talk to, I've been there. One woman even said she used to flirt with my husband during our sessions. I always wondered. It wasn't validation I was after. But damn, it was sobering. Her entire persona, this graceful, sweet, empowering woman, was built on lies so thin you could see daylight through them if you looked closely. I just hadn't looked closely. I trusted. That's what made me vulnerable. That's what made her powerful. But now? That power was gone. She tried one last play. Late one night, a message popped up on my phone. No number. Just a burner. I recognized the phrasing immediately. It was her voice. Carefully dramatic. You think you've won. But you destroyed everything. And one day when the attention fades and the silence gets louder, remember you were the one who gave up on us. I stared at that message for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it was pathetic. Even now she couldn't admit it. She couldn't own it. She needed to rewrite the story again, this time with me as the villain. The ungrateful husband who didn't fight. The one who didn't forgive. So I wrote her back. Just one sentence. I didn't give up, I got out. Then I blocked the number. And just like that it ended. Not with a bang. Not with revenge. Just a locked door and silence. And for the first time in a long time, that silence felt like peace. After I blocked that final message, I thought that would be the end. But people like her don't just fade. They linger like a stain, quiet, subtle, always looking for another way in. 2 weeks passed. I changed my routine. I left the old apartment. New space, new city, new job, remote, cleaner, quieter. I wasn't running. I was reclaiming. Every wall I painted, every cabinet I stocked felt like a layer of her peeling off my life. I didn't keep photos. I didn't hold on to souvenirs. If she touched it, it was gone. But she wasn't done. I found out through Clara. She'd gone to a mutual friend's birthday party, uninvited, and spent the entire night pacing through conversations like a politician, rewiring the narrative. To some, she claimed I had a breakdown and disappeared. To others, she painted herself as abandoned, left to pick up the pieces of a toxic marriage. She never denied the affair, not exactly. She repackaged it. It wasn't planned, she told someone. I was suffocating. It wasn't just manipulation. It was preemptive strategy. She wanted to get ahead of the story, lay down a safety net of sympathy before the truth spread any further. And in some circles, it worked. But then Clara did something unexpected. She confronted her. In public. At a cafe of all places. Clara told me afterward. Madison had been sitting with a few of those same friends, weaving her version of events. Clara walked straight up, calm and clear, and said, "Tell them how many there were. Not just one. You want to talk about healing? Start with the truth. She didn't scream. She didn't raise her voice. She just exposed her in front of the exact people Madison was trying to recruit. And Madison? She didn't deny it. She just got up and walked out. 2 hours later, Clara called me. I could hear the storm still in her breath. She was shaking not from fear, but from rage. I can't believe I let her manipulate me for years, she said. She always got away with it. Always made herself the victim. She paused, then said something I'll never forget. She underestimated the wrong man. And she had. Because I hadn't just walked away. I'd documented every piece. I'd insulated myself, legally, emotionally, reputationally. I didn't light her world on fire, I just let her burn herself trying to protect the lie. And now? Her lies weren't sticking anymore. She started losing clients quietly. One by one. No scandal. Just personal decisions. A few unfollows. A few unsubscribes. A new trainer hired at her gym. Word gets around. Not because I pushed it, because she'd always underestimated how many people were quietly watching. One client wrote a review so carefully worded it was practically a scalpel. She's charming until she isn't. Pay attention to what she doesn't say. She knew it was about her. And I knew she read it. Because she started reaching out again. Through mutual friends. Through her sister. Always indirect. Always circling. Never an apology. Never an ounce of responsibility. Just vague hints about wanting closure, trying to talk, maybe just meeting once. But there would be no meeting. There would be no closure. She made her choices. And I made mine. The last time I saw her was an accident. Or maybe it wasn't. It was a Saturday. Late morning. I was walking out of a bookstore, something small, local, nothing fancy, with a coffee in one hand and a new read in the other. For once I felt good. Not distracted. Not haunted. Just calm. Then I saw her. Across the street. Standing at the edge of the sidewalk, alone, arms folded tight like she was bracing against wind that wasn't there. Hair down, sunglasses on, but I recognized her posture instantly. The same way she used to stand in our kitchen when she was rehearsing a confrontation in her head. She spotted me before I could turn away. I don't know if she followed me there. I don't care. What I remember is the way she walked, slow, measured, like she was still trying to stage manage the scene in her favor. Hey, she said. That's all. No, how are you? No, can we talk? Just hey, like we were exes bumping into each other at a high school reunion. I didn't answer. I just looked at her. She took off the sunglasses, tried to smile. I know you probably don't want to see me. Still nothing from me. And then she did what she always does when silence threatens her grip, she filled it. I've been thinking. About us. About everything. And I just wanted to say that I didn't handle it well. Any of it. I tilted my head slightly. You came all the way here for that? She blinked. I thought maybe we could talk. Not about fixing anything, I know that's not on the table. Just closure. There it was again. That word. Closure. She clung to it like it was some ritual she needed in order to move on, as if it would absolve her. I sipped my coffee. Closure's what you get when you bury something. You didn't bury us. You scattered us and hoped no one would trace it back to you. She actually had the nerve to look hurt. You really hate me, don't you? She said, voice soft. That made me laugh. Just once. Quietly. I don't hate you. I understand you. That's worse. She stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do with that. Because the truth about people like her is they don't know how to operate when you're not feeding the fire. When you don't scream, cry, chase, or crumble, when you just know and walk away, that's what really breaks them. She tried one last reach. Can we just sit somewhere? 5 minutes. I shook my head. I spent years sitting next to you, not realizing I was alone. I'm not doing that again. She nodded. Slowly. Like she was absorbing a blow. But even then, even in her stillness, I could see her calculating what she'd tell people, how she'd twist this. So I gave her one last sentence to sit with. One that wouldn't make it into her version of the story but would ring louder than anything else I'd ever said to her. You weren't a mistake. You were a lesson. One I survived. Then I turned and walked away. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. She'd been watching her world fall apart in slow motion for weeks now. And I wasn't in it anymore. You always imagine the end of something like this will feel cinematic. Like there'll be this thunderclap of finality, some kind of emotional crescendo screaming in the rain, maybe, or a single perfect quote that wraps everything up and sends the credits rolling. But that's not what it feels like. What it feels like is Sunday morning. The quiet kind. Sun just barely breaking through the blinds, coffee brewing, a blank page in a notebook, and nobody talking in the other room. No lies wrapped in smiles. No passive-aggressive questions. No fake I love you spoken out of obligation. Just stillness. Real, honest stillness. I kept waiting for the grief to hit again. For the sadness to come crashing back through the windows. But instead, something else arrived, something better. Relief. Not the cheap kind you get when you dodge a bullet. The deep, clean kind you feel when you realize you've been carrying a weight you didn't even know was killing you. And then one day, it's gone. Not because someone lifted it, but because you finally let go of it yourself. Madison, and yes, I'll say her name now finally because it no longer stings, taught me something I never expected to learn from the person I trusted most. She taught me how to see clearly. I used to think love meant protecting someone's image, even from themselves. I thought it meant forgiveness without limits. I thought loyalty was staying when things got hard. But here's what I know now. Real love doesn't ask you to destroy yourself for someone else's comfort. Real loyalty isn't loyalty when it's one-sided. And forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to stop giving second chances to people who only see you as a fallback. Madison will tell her story however she wants. That's fine. I don't need to correct her version. I don't need revenge. I don't need people to take sides. Because this version, the real one, is mine. And I've moved on. Not with someone new. Not by diving into distractions. By rebuilding. I reconnected with people I'd pushed away. I started running again. I stopped trying to make everything perfect, and I started appreciating the kind of peace that doesn't come from things being quiet, but from knowing nothing is hiding in the silence. You want to know the best part? She doesn't live in my head anymore. She doesn't get to rent space in my mind, doesn't get to take up oxygen in rooms she's no longer allowed in. She's a story I've read. A chapter I've finished. A warning sign I'll never ignore again. And for anyone reading this, anyone stuck in the middle of something similar, wondering if they're overreacting, wondering if maybe they're just not enough, hear me clearly. You're not crazy. You're not broken. And the pain you're feeling right now? It's not weakness. It's proof you're still real in a world that rewards the fake. Walk away. Walk through the fire. Don't chase closure. Be the closure. That's what I did. And I'm still here. Still breathing. Still becoming something better.